Welcome back. MTG Joe here. We are here today for your weekly look at the best decks in MTG Timeless, best of 3 on MTG Arena. We are going to be looking at a number of different deck lists today that have been putting up high results. This will be useful to kind of see where the meta game is, some deck options that you can take for this month's qualifier. So both the qualifier play-in and the qualifier weekend is going to be Timeless best of 3. There is a play-in that's Timeless best of 1. We put out a video the other day if you want to try that format out. I qualified through playing Mardu's Sacrifice in Historic, and I will be probably taking a variant of the best of 3 version for the event. But we will take a look at the decks themselves. We are going to get the data from UntappedGG, what you see on the screen. Companion tool that runs alongside Arena's client, aggregates user win rates, pulls all the data together, gives us a bunch of cool stats, so we will look through that. Untapped link is in the video description if you want to get started, as well as I will paste all these deck lists for your viewing considerations. So we're going to look just a brief kind of metagame popularity, and then we'll look at the deck lists themselves. So right now, we're looking at 4-color Show and Tell and Mardu Energy being about 20% of the meta each. Within each of the energy builds, there's Luris versions, there's Giganta versions. As always, I'll indicate the deck lists in the comments with either a J or an L in brackets so you can see which variant it is. The big kind of difference is like Giganta gives you access to Flage. Luris tends to be a little bit more sacrifice oriented, if you would. We have Dimir Tempo, kind of the frog versions, hard control versions, everything along that line. And then we have Boros Energy kind of wrapping it up. So format's kind of congregated around these kind of archetypes. The energy decks are very efficient. They feature a bunch of Modern Horizon 3 cards, which are busted. Combo decks tend to do a little bit well against them, at least in game 1. And then you have the Dimir Tempo decks that are trying to be the control decks of the format, kind of policing what's happening. So we'll jump into it. We're going to look Diamond and Mythic rank. The ladder just reset a couple days ago, so we'll kind of be looking there. And we're going to start off. The highest win rate deck is 4-color Show and Tell, but it's actually an interesting variant of the deck. This is a non-quote-unquote combo version. So this version here, you're actually not winning on the spot. So it's playing kind of like just cheat into play big fatty control deck. So you still have your variants of Show and Tell, you have Omniscience, and then you can put into play Atraxa or Hullbreaker Whore. The difference is you don't have that like Masterminds package to just win the game on the spot. Instead, it's got like Nexus of Fate, take a whole bunch of extra turns, lots of card advantage. Waterlog Teaching can also just find you like your copies of Nexus, just take a whole bunch of turns. So you could kind of combo win, but not like deterministic like the Search Your Sideboard plan. Seek New Knowledge can find you non-land cards, Mana Drain, Born Upon the Winds can let you play through various triggers. Considers in here to help find your combo, as well as Veil of Summer for protection. You'll see in the mana base there's access to white mana, no green mana in this one beyond a single copy of Hedge Maze and 1 breeding pool. So you're just like green for that, and then the white would be in the sideboard for things like Fragment Reality. You have Flusterstorm, which can be reasonable in the control matchups, storm matchups, stuff like that. You have Vexing Bauble for kind of the mirrors against. You could even bring it in, for example, against the Evoke Elemental decks, stuff of that nature. Disputes is counter, Leyline for heavy discard decks. And then Elish Norn could come in against the energy decks, just kind of sweep up their stuff and make it very difficult for them to kind of beat you that way there. It's not sequentially the next in terms of win rate, but I wanted to just kind of highlight the more traditional Show and Tell. So this list here is at 55%, larger population size, but lower win rate. This one here is the combo variant, so you do your Show and Tell shenanigans, cast Mastermind Acquisition or Fave Wishes, you go and get your Approach the Second Son of the sideboard, dig some cards deeper to finding your combo pieces. Now notably this one does not have the deterministic line with the extra Masterminds and like Bonds of Insight or Scholar of Ages to find you and kind of recycle your effects. Sideboard with this one, Surgical for Graveyard Hate, Thoughtseize for some hand hate, Abrupt Decay can blow up a bunch of hate pieces out of your opponent's deck. Single Defense Grid, if you're anticipating more kind of Dimir control, stuff like that, second or third copy might be relevant. Frozen Grip is very good in the mirror, blows up like Omniscience at instant speed. Force of Vigor is another way to kind of channel or pitch to get rid of artifacts and enchantments. Leyline again for heavy discard. Approach Second Sun as your combo win condition. We have like Dark Ritual in this variant as well to kind of combo out as early as turn 2. We then go to Mardu Energy. So this one's at 85%. So this list here, we have 26 games played, but if you're actually looking, this list was from Bolt to the Echo 5 Bravo. They were playing this exact list. They went 42-8 with it across like multiple kind of like they did their whole run basically with this deck here from gold upwards. So this Mardu Energy list, it's a Luris Companion. Seen some variations of this, but this one's interesting. We see Demonic Tutor, which is a card we don't see that often in this deck. 3 Marionette Apprentice, and then the Orcish Bowmasters. So a little bit closer to the historic variant, which is more sacrifice, drain, and gain. You can win this one without having to actually attack your opponent, just through sacrificing your creatures, pinging them, rebuying them. I was playing a similar variant to this deck in historic, and you can just kind of keep cycling Cthulhu Nightmares with Marionette Apprentice for like mana, kind of going that way there. Guided Souls, you have Ragavan in here. Ostis Pride, just a lot of powerful Modern Horizon cards all scattered in. This version's playing 2 Static Prisons, 2 Swords Plowshares. The Prison is an answer main board to Show and Tell. The Show and Tell use Static Prison. Otherwise, you're just trying to go as aggressive as possible. Surgical in here for Graveyard Hate, Combo Hate. Swords is more removal. Thoughtseize for Hand Hate. Notably, with these cards here, just be mindful. I don't know how Arena Import does if it defaults. These are mythics. You can just craft the rare ones, save your mythics for actual mythics. Juggernaut Peddler is more Hand Hate. Sun Cleanser as removal of like energy counters, very good in the mirror. Meat Hook is really good in the mirror, kind of sweep, and then another way to kind of drain your opponent. You really don't care about your stuff dying because you get it back with Nightmare or effects like that. And Licensors for Graveyard Hate. Then go to another version of Mardu Energy. This is the Jengantha version. This one's at 80%. So with Jengantha, you're playing Obnixilis and Flage. No kind of reanimation sack package. You're playing a little bit bigger. Bowmasters in here, your Static Prisons, 3 Ragavans, single Lightning Bolt in here. Arena Glory can haste out the Flages. Aether Hub in here for the Amped Raptor to allow you to kind of cascade into these creatures. Needle for activated abilities. Static Prison, just more removal. Surgical for Graveyard Hate. Vexing Bauble for Show and Tell, stuff of that nature. With the Baubles, notably, it does shut off Amped Raptor's ability to cast for free. Sun Cleanser for the Mirrors, and then Unlicensed Hearst for Graveyard Hate. Then go to Sultai Midrange. I believe this deck is from Crokies. It's kind of an adaptation of the Dimir Tempo list. So you have your Tempo elements, Frogs, Bowmasters, Mana Drains, the Tamios in here, some Thoughtseize, Inquisition Splits, Nethergoyf in here. So just a lot of removal kind of Tempo elements. Treasure Cruise to refill your hand. Oko is the only green card in the main. Just gives you an alternative way to attack your opponent. Gain you some life, which this deck kind of could struggle at times, given that you don't really have any life gain mechanics otherwise. Sideboard, Stern Scolding for small creature decks, Luris decks, stuff like that. Surgical for combo hate. Veil of Summer for protection against blue and black. Vexing Bauble comes in against Show and Tell, Evoke Elementals. Counterspell just as more counters. Demonic Tutor can find you any of these random pieces. Flute for activated abilities. Meat Hook, a sweeper. Path to Peril, sweeper. Dispute is just more counters. Toxic Deluge is a sweeper. So just kind of varied sweepers depending on what you're playing against. Mindbreak Trap can be useful against kind of the combo variants, Storm style decks. We then go to Boros Energy. So very similar to the Mardu variant. This one here plays Fables as well as Blood Moon's main. More basics to kind of accommodate for that. This one's on Inti, which is kind of interesting, giving your big things trample, kind of pushes through some damage, gives you some card selection, more ways to kind of just loot through. You're kind of, if Blood Moon's not relevant, you can get rid of it. If you have multiple copies, type thing like that. A lot of these cards are kind of, we've illustrated. Bone Crusher Giant can break the ring's protection, just more removal. Leyline of Sanctity for protection against discard, Belcher, stuff like that. We have the Beanstalk decks. So this one's the non-Yorion variant. We've seen kind of both Leyline Bindings, cheap elementals in here. Notably, this one's not on Cabaretti Revels. So instead, just playing Omnaths, Minskimbu, just kind of fair mid-rangey value. Be super reasonable against creature decks, lots of ways to gain life, lots of incidental removal kind of paired with it, and card advantage engines of Up the Beanstalk, Omnath kind of mixed into there. You also have like the Fable, Copy the Elementals line. Sideboard Alpine Moon for shifting woodlands decks, anything that's kind of leveraging their lands, Field of the Dead, if you happen to run into a Field of the Dead player. Prismatic Ending, just cheap removal, Spell Pierce's Disruption, Flute for activated abilities, Veto as counters, Endurance as a way to hate on graveyards, Beseiju as an uncounterable way to destroy artifacts and enchantments. Then go to Belcher, 74%. So combo deck, basically you activate Belcher, win the game or deal damage equal to the number of cards in your library to your opponent. There's no lands in this deck because you're playing all the DFC lands, so they don't count. You can do it as early as like turn 2 in a way. I think you could technically turn 1. Your way to channel through. So you need like Dark Ritual, 2 chromatic effects to channel the mana through, play Channel and Belcher. So magical Christmas line, but you could technically turn 1 in this deck. You have Iron Crag here as another way to kind of work with the Belcher. Beseech can find these combo pieces for you, kind of get you that weight there. Otherwise, the deck's just kind of protection effects, ramp, and then ways to kind of combo out. Activated abilities, surgicals, again, just a lot of these cards. Culling Ritual is very good against the aggressive decks, as well as just destroys a lot of the incidental hate, flute, stuff of that nature. Force as removal, and then Grief for hand hate. You can pitch like lands as well, since they're technically black cards in this deck. Interesting one, we got Grixis Shadow. So we're seeing variants of the blue-black deck in action. So Cinderclasm helps to have a cheap sweeper effect against the more aggressive decks. You can also see like Vampire's Vengeance is another consideration there. Molten Collapse, just flexible removal card. We have DRCs in here, Unholy Heats kind of, and Lightning Bolts just to kind of complement the package here. Link to Dust is some like Graveyard Hate. You have your discard package. This one's just on Inquisition, and then Baubles as a cheap effect. Basic Surgery basically is Test of Talents for Show and Tell, just a bunch of cheap counters, removal, sweepers, kind of disruption elements out of the sideboard. A lot of these sideboards are going to be fairly similar. It's going to be like, these are the things I bring in against energy. These are the things I bring in against combo. These are the things I bring in against midrange. We then have the Dimir Tempo. So this is just straight Dimir, Frogs, Bowmasters, Mana Drains all mixed in. Just a little bit cheaper Disruption, Stern Scolding, Spell Pierce, and Spell Snare all in here. Fatal Push's main. Blood Chief's Thirst is another cheap removal options. So you're winning kind of Tamiyo, Bowmasters, or Frog in this list, as well as Nethergoyf. Again, sideboard, just a lot of these same ideas. Stone of Erich is an interesting consideration for like any sort of sacrifice decks. Bombardment decks do deal damage just through bombardment, however, but it would shut off the Marionette's effect. So something to kind of consider there. And then lastly, we have Mono Black Storm. So this is leveraging around Jet Medallion, reduces the cost of your creatures or spells. So basically what you're able to do is with the Jet Medallion out, Cthulhian Nightmare basically costs 1 mana to recast. And then with you just basically need a copy of Freebooter or Shambling Ghast in your graveyard and 1 in play. You can sack it, return the Nightmare to hand. You get a treasure, and then you reanimate the other one, and it just creates a loop. You generate a treasure each time. They bring them back and forth, back and forth. With either Meat Hookout or Marionette Apprentice, you drain your opponent out of their life. The rest of the deck, just Necro to find your combo, Disruption Elements, Dark Ritual to kind of dig you into the pieces as well needed to combo out. Sideboard, again, just hand hate, artifact enchantment hate. You'll notice a couple green sources in the mana base. Surgical in here for combos. Defense grid against heavy counterspell decks. More sweepers, more disruption, more counters kind of mixed into there. That's it for the week. Let me know what you've been playing, what you've been liking, and what you are thinking about taking to the qualifier weekend. See you next time. Thanks for watching.